Hello and welcome to Nice and Blunt. I'm your host Adam Riancho and we are live. It's 9:44 p.m. and this was like a true pop-up stream. At the moment, no one's even watching. So, love it. We're going to get a chance to enter a lobby that's clean and we're actually going to start on a different website. We are a little disorienting. I'm actually on drafters right now and I'm going to join this new contest that they just dropped. We are in a $10 Drafters Survival. It is essentially the Eliminator contest, but it's actually much higher chances. And I wanted to have some fun. This is the Drafters version of Eliminator. So going to be a little bit different than our typical start, but I promise you our second draft will be on Underdog, and there are definitely takeaways from this. So there's one spot available if anyone wants to join. We are in the fast Drafters Survival $10 contest. It is full. We are ready to go. And the fact that they dropped this today, I think is pretty sweet. And definitely, I want to get in a couple, especially before the ADP is like fully set. So this lobby did fill. This is a full PPR contest. We pulled pick 12, and there's not going to be more than like one of you in this lobby with me. If I had to guess, two mules in a cart. I recognize at the 4 slot. Otherwise, I wouldn't be surprised if nobody else is watching. But this will be different. This will be interesting, and maybe that's right. I need to move my head when we're on drafters. I forgot. Bada boom. Bada bing. All right. I have pick 12. We can maybe zoom out just a little bit. There we go. Good luck, everyone. We're in the Drafters $10 contest, and this is essentially the Eliminator. The difference in the Eliminator, though, is that every week, 50% of the teams are cut from the contest. In this one, it's only a quarter of the teams that are cut. Roughly 75% of all teams advance every single week. So we are already in the final group, essentially. We are competing against every single team drafted in this contest. And this is full PPR, 20 rounds, but the same starting roster format as Underdog. So the full PPR changes things just a little bit. However, for the most part, it's total points. That's the main difference. Week 1 matters just as much as week 17. So players that score a lot in the early season, they help you establish a lead and they help you hold on to it. They will matter down the stretch. You need all of the right pieces over the course of the year. So a lot of different ways to go about this. The full PPR aspect definitely changes the strategy as well. But on the clock here, I think just grabbing double running back is the play. I'm going to grab James Cook as one of them. Actually, no. I'm going to stick with my boy, Omarion Hampton. I do rank Hampton above. Actually, no. I'd rank him behind him. But on this one, I'm just going to stick to my gut. I'm going to do that. And we're also going to get... I've been wanting to take Chase Brown, and in full PPR, it feels pretty valuable to have Chase Brown. So I think these two guys could both average like 5+ receptions per game. I think in full PPR, these are definitely really good clicks, and I trust the offenses they play in. They have different bye weeks. Unlike James Cook, I'm not stuck with a double week 7 at running back. It's not the end of the world, but it is a little something. And when it's a tiebreaker like that, in this format, I'm willing to go with Chase Brown, get a little bit different. But let me bring in the chat. Let me mention y'all who are watching. Appreciate it. We got CH Fantasy Lab in the house. Let me move the chat just a little bit. It's probably better to go right here. But yo, what's up, gang? Just subbed and dropped a like. How you doing, bro? Appreciate that, Fantasy Lab. Thank you very much. I'm doing well. We were live with Hartman earlier today. That was a lot of fun. I will be live with Who Hames tomorrow. That should be a lot of fun. And then on Wednesday, I'm also going to be in round 2 of Best Ball Jeopardy. I'm really stoked for that, and that should be a lot of fun. But overall, doing nice. Just trying to stay out of the heat too much. It's all right. But Austin says, "Ew, not happy. We're on drafters. It's all right. It's just fine." But drafters really need Underdog to drop some new contests. For $10, I'd rather enter a contest that dropped today than one that's been open since the beginning. A little bit of novelty, just a little bit of different strategizing. But I think I'll probably stick in the same vein and do an eliminator after this one. I don't think we're going to enter a BBM, but I do have some funds over on drafters. And this is a fun contest. I drafted one earlier today watching Whohames, and that team was pretty sweet. Maybe I can show you guys because that one's pretty nice. And I don't think we have a single team review other than Two Mules in a Cart. If you're going to be in this lobby with me on drafters, definitely getting a team review. I haven't drafted much, and I'm curious to see what other people are willing to do. And it looks like Two Mules has been on here for quite some time. But CJ Bull says Underdog needs a cheaper draft for right now. I heard some rumblings that they might draft a flock contest this week. I don't have any insider information. I may have a partnership with Underdog, but that's not something I would be aware of. So purely just a rumor, completely unsubstantiated. I would imagine those get dropped at some point, but those are also $10. So right now it looks like if you really want weekly winners, go for it, but I don't see the point. I did one yesterday. We're never doing another one. Definitely not on stream, that's for sure. But in general, that's not my contest of choice. The Eliminator is kind of the only one appealing. There is the Scott Fish Bowl. There's also the charity contest, but not gonna lie, I'd rather draft on drafters than over there. But maybe I need to go to DK. Maybe we need to crack the seal on DraftKings one time. But are those paid contests? This one is, yes. This one costs $10 to enter, and there are a lot of prizes up for grabs. I'm almost on the clock, but first prize gets $50,000. Let me get back to whoops. Oh shit. I'm not that there we go. There it is. Sweet. Not too familiar with this this website, in all honesty. But Ryan says DK is super nice. What's up, Anthony? Nice to see you. Yeah, we might do DK one of these days, but at least for now, pivoting over to drafters. I think I'll stick with receiver because that's definitely a position that could fly off the board. I'm going to take Neighbors in this one. I'm willing to do it. Round 4, we're at the turn. It's just not going to be privy to us all of the time. And then aside from that, I think I also am going to go Lad McConkey, get the double charger. I have all 30 seconds to make my choice, and then I will be able to do it again. I am on auto pick, but you just click off right there, and it's all good. Running back's not speaking to me the same. I already have 2 of them. I think just getting volume at receiver is the main play. And I think I trust Lad just a tiny bit more. Just a tiny bit more than Waddle. Not by a lot, but there's a lot of volume in both of these passing games this year, but one of them is much more crowded than the other. And I'll go with the more consolidated target share. If we go back to Lad's rookie season, he did get more targets than Quentin Johnston. So I think he's the true number 1. I think as long as Keenan Allen doesn't return, there's really nothing to worry about with Lad other than an injury, which can happen to anyone. So Lad is in a good spot to crush. I think he will bounce back. He had 1,150 yards his rookie season and 7 touchdowns. That's pretty sweet. He really came alive after Justin Herbert was healthy. His rookie season, Herbert missed training camp with a foot injury. It was rumored to be plantar fasciitis. Sounded like a painful injury to his heel. He was not 100% for 4 weeks. He actually got hurt in the 4th game before their bye in week 5. He was not upright. And that was Lad's rookie season. So the chemistry to start wasn't the best. And if you give him like 1 extra week of leeway, like don't count week 6 or prior, if you only look at Lad's production week 7 through 17, his rookie year, he averaged about 14.5 points per game. He was a top 20 receiver. He was basically wide receiver 16, 15 on a points per game basis that year. He was very productive if you ignore the first 6 weeks. And why I'm willing to also write that off with some confidence is the fact that playoff game against the Houston Texans, a very stout defense, not a good matchup at all. He went crazy. He had an insane game in the playoff matchup. The week 19 of the season, like that one was really, really, really valuable. My cat's in a mood. The heat I think is getting to my cat. She's been getting pissed easily lately. Apparently there's like character dynamics with like cats based on gender. If you want a more chill cat, apparently you need to get a boy. A boy cat is much less grumpy, apparently. But all right, we're 5 rounds into this one, and that's an interesting team there from the 3 slot. Team 3, who has the second most experience in this particular contest, has drafted his 8th team in this one. Goes 5 straight wideouts: Jamar Chase, Drake London, Devontae Smith, Luther Burden, and Tetero McMillan. I think you need running back points. I think there's some risk involved in not grabbing a running back through this point in the draft. But maybe he just doesn't like anyone. Maybe he just didn't like the values or whatever. For whatever reason, 5 straight receivers, interesting call. It is full PPR, but not really the strategy I want to use. I want at least one through this stretch, but there weren't the best values. I don't really blame him, in all honesty. But I think taking Montgomery there or Travion would have been pretty valuable, given the options that might make it back. But that's somebody else's team. It's not mine. They can do what they want. Interesting to see how they land the plane, though, without the balance in the beginning. I'm about to be on the clock. I might go Bucky Irving just because it might be valuable, but I'm not going to lie. I have talked myself into a lot of volume coming in for Cardinal Tate this year. The Brian Dable receiver 1 has just been crushing in terms of volume, and they drafted him 4th overall. That's where Neighbors was selected 5th overall. It's the same thing, and like Neighbors was on pace for 190 targets his rookie season. So I'm going to go with volume. I'm going to go Cardinal Tate. I know we were live with Best Ball Guy last week. He is a fan. It feels valuable, so I'll take him, and then I guess why not? Not in love with these picks right now, but I'll just take Bucky Irving. I'll stick with the balance. We're not going to go overboard in any particular direction, but in terms of true upside, Bucky has flashed some like true stud value. There have been some really, really good weeks out of him. It was mostly 2 years ago, not last season. I worry about the touchdowns, but ultimately he is still the most talented running back in the backfield. But that offense feels a little bit tricky. It's very crowded in the backfield. But so far, we are very comfortable. Let me show you the board just a little bit more. So far, we are 6 rounds in at the bookend, pick 12. We started RB. This is full PPR. I took Hampton and Chase Brown, both over James Cook and Saquon. I then took Neighbors and Ladd McConkey. The upside on Neighbors seems to be more appealing at the moment, given some more optimistic training camp news. He might not be ready week 1, but it sounds like he's probably going to avoid the pup. So volume-wise, it's locked in once he's eligible. I will say, though, missing any time is kind of difficult. A little bit more tough in this contest when every week matters. It's a total points contest, so you do need a little extra volume, perhaps, to push one of the Neighbors teams through down to the end. But Bucky Irving, after Cardinal Tate and Ladd McConkey, fills in the starting roster. We got the flex taken care of with Bucky at the very least. But I like his pass catching potential. It's maybe not his forte. I could still see Kenny Gainwell be a problem, but I could also just see Bucky Irving score a lot of points. I think he's fine. But Ryan says, I'm of the opinion that any one of the McDaniel offense is a great click. That's a fair Fair assessment, Ryan. I don't think that's off base at all. Obviously, I'm one of the biased sources, but for the most part, I think everyone agrees with that sentiment. You might not like Lad in the third, but it's still not a pick that you want to completely avoid. It's easy to see getting burned by like all of them. Like even QJ, he could still move up further. He could still be more expensive and it would still make some sense because really, like, he's guaranteed to score fewer points than Marvin Harrison, even though he has way more points than him the last 2 seasons. That, at the very least, there is some still room for upside on QJ. But Herbert's a fantastic pick. Hampton is a really good pick. I'm starting to pump the brakes a little bit on Trey Harris, but I have so much of him. That's kind of the main reason. I'm a little worried that I have a little too much. So I've been looking for excuses not to draft him. But he even feels like a fine click. And then one of the tight ends will totally be worth it. That's for sure. It's probably Gadsden, but Njoku can still smash on occasion. And then say what you want about Keaton Mitchell being overpriced, but like he can hit a house call with his speed in the Mike McDaniel system. So yeah, 100% agree. Chargers are fantastic picks this year. What's up, Wilson? How we doing? Nice to see you. Thank you for joining. Anthony says, I know you've seen Wemby on the cover of NBA 2K27. So in all honesty, Anthony, I have not. That is not on my radar. That's not the type of thing that shows up on my algorithm. I am very lukewarm on the NBA. But now that LeBron has been released from whatever punishment we've been subject to, I'm glad LeBron's gone. Maybe I'll get into the Luka Lakers, perhaps. But this is a bummer. Don't love these picks, in all honesty. I kind of just want to take Jackson Dart. Not really give a shit at all about ADP. But I felt pretty good about Godwin in this range. Is definitely not a reach, so I'll just take him. The tight end points, it looks like Kraft would be the play by ADP. I'd really be reaching. Yeah, we got a little fall on Kraft. Not a huge fall, but decent. 7 picks. Let's just take him. Getting one of the more valuable tight ends. Laporta was already off the board as well. That's relevant. Kraft after Laporta sounds pretty decent, but I am a tiny bit worried we could get boxed out of quarterback in the next one. I'm not as familiar with how the quarterback rooms go on drafters. Sometimes it's just a different lobby than what you'd think. So Herbert was hopefully what I would get. I just didn't acquire him. He went unstacked to the team at 9. I had a Hampton and Ladd, so it would have been an obvious pick, but we just stick with receiver, another Tampa Bay Buccaneer, so that makes Baker a pretty solid option. Definitely a play I might be scooping up, but then Kraft also opens up Jordan Love, and that's a player I'm willing to bet on. Not a bad pick, but I'd be a bit surprised, not going to lie, if Jackson Dart makes it back to me at 108. It's possible. It's definitely happened on Underdog, but here on Drafters, I have no clue if that's a fair thing to expect. But to pull him up to 85 when his ADP is like 101, 100, probably worth pushing. There's probably going to be more teams that acquire Jackson Dart at 108 than reach on him at 85. But I'm at pick 12. I can kind of do whatever the fuck I want. Pick 12 kind of has carte blanche. At least there's a 20 pick weight. You have like reasonable room to get different. But Sladen, you think Leia would like the non-dog app more? I know, right? To get away from the canine environment, you would think would be right up her alley. You think it'd be something she'd appreciate. But the summer heat with a coat like hers, I think, is just too much to handle to be in a good mood. But yo, Mr. Mufasa, what's good, brother? How we doing? Nice to see ya. And then we got our boy Ruben in the house. Double anchor RB. Feels pretty solid. We also got 2 of your Bucks on this team. I would imagine you're also kind of happy with the Bucks clicks. But 2 Mules says, I've heard from more than a couple of you streamer guys say how important having a strong running back room in this contest is. Why is that? I think it's because it's total points, and you can't just kind of get lucky with like a weak pod in some respect and like just advancing. Like you are facing every other team, and that's where like running back is usually where all the touchdowns are, and touchdowns really move the needle in terms of total points. So I think that's the reason why. I think because of the nature of ADP this year, it's easy to fall behind. And although I think you can still find a way, it is full PPR, so there are some more running backs that go later that are still more valuable than typical. But I understand the fear of falling behind at running back. It's happened to me on a couple of these drafters contests where like I could have had a better running back room. That's for sure. And while maybe it's not the end of the world, maybe I just have a really good receiver room and it's fine. You know, it's also kind of valuable as well. So I think it's just the nature of the position this year. Running back has been punched up the board, and it is just more coveted and therefore more critical to acquire. But I'm glad I didn't go Jackson Dart. Whether this guy snipes me or not, it was worth pushing. One pick away was more worth waiting for than taking him at 85, and he does make it back. So yeah, perfect spot here to grab my QB1. Love Jackson Dart, really high upside, and with neighbors, that offers very high potential. So the question is, what do I do with the second pick? The bringbacks are kind of irrelevant. Running back points dry up quickly. Manungai's still here. That's interesting. I guess it is full PPR, so player like that is less valuable. But still, I think being invested in Chicago is not a bad plan. Receiver is always coveted, though. It's a full PPR league, so I might be doing myself a disservice. But everyone's would be a reach here. I already have my top tight end, so it's kind of just between quarterback and then Kyle Manungai. But I'm willing to go for it. I should probably take Baker. Actually, yeah, I'm going to do Baker. I got afraid. At pick 12, I really have no confidence whatsoever that at 132, I'm still getting a quarterback I like. Now, Carnell Tate would stack with Cam Ward, but honestly, if I have Dart, Baker, and Cam Ward, I feel much better than Dart, Cam Ward, and trying to figure out the third option. So I think because I drafted both Bucky and Chris Godwin, I think that just puts me in another situation where the stack becomes more valuable and therefore the tiebreaker. I came very, very close, though, to drafting Manungai, but it's not a full PPR league. He falls for a reason, and I feel pretty good about my running back room. Hampton, Chase Brown, and Bucky Irving. I'm willing to push it, but I think Manungai was a very legit pick there. But I was very committed to Tampa already. That was the tiebreaker. We already drafted 2 Buccaneers. So it is what it is, but I'm not upset. Because quarterback's a very important position as well. The cliff is coming. There's not that many quarterbacks remaining that will even make it back, let alone are worth picking. Yeah, Bo Nix goes 118 there. No chance I was getting Baker at 132. In this lobby, I would really be shocked. No chance, in my opinion. But the investment totally justifies the click, and I think it was the wise choice. The Ibuka drafter has Drake May and Jared Goff, so maybe that would have worked out. But I still just think people like Jalen McMillan and that backstack is appealing enough to say, fuck it, we're just taking Baker because he's past ADP, and he's a good pick. So maybe I draft Cam Ward in the next one, but with the Baker click, I'm not forced into anything. I have plenty of options. And I really love that Baker is in a contract season. Baker, indeed, is going to bake. If anything, I'm going to bake right now. I'm going to get baked. We just baked this team. It's time to bake the live stream. Hell yeah. All right, let's review the team. The team is pretty balanced. It feels pretty sweet. Quarterback, we waited. That was the last position we hit for the lineup, but got my backup on the bench. I got Jackson Dart in the lineup and Baker on the bench. Really high upside with those two, and some nice stacks. Neighbors with Dart, and then Baker the double with Godwin and Bucky Irving. I like Godwin a little bit more in this format. Last year when he was valuable, it was on volume, and I think the nature of his skill set, the nature of how he plays, and how he's trusted by Baker, I would trust volume to hit more than touchdowns. I think if we're going to get a boost in points, it's going to be in this format as opposed to half PPR. There have been times when Chris Godwin has really struggled to find the end zone. It's not impossible for him to hit 10 plus touchdowns, but he has a few seasons with less than 5, more than you would like, and that's definitely an issue. So volume is key. Godwin, I think, will pay off even more in a full PPR type of setting. So like that pick a lot, more so on drafters than Underdog. But yeah, championship team indeed. Triple bucks. I'm sure we're making the FF nerd pretty happy. But somebody say sniper on Herbert. It's pretty typical. That's why I got in my shares early. I always knew there was a chance that one day people might just snipe me all over the place. The stack would likely make some sense, but honestly, my rankings just don't justify it. I trust Dallas Goedert way more. I think the ADP is much sharper here on drafters when it comes to Dallas Goedert. He's going 125 on their ADP. Meanwhile, on Underdog, he's like 132, 133. That's pretty crazy to me. But I could go Jalen McMillan, but I feel pretty confident taking Stephon Diggs. And Cam Ward is already off the board. So doesn't matter on this one. I'm going to go with Dallas Goedert, my tight end 2, the guy I like the most. And then we are just going to grab the receiver I like the most. I trust the more volume-heavy play to be with the veteran, Stephon Diggs. Give me Stephon Diggs at pick 133. He's not going to the Giants. I'd be pretty shocked. They brought in OBJ and Juju Smith-Schuster. I don't think they're bringing in Stephon Diggs. I think Diggs going to play on a team that is viable for at least playoff contention and a ring. The Giants, I think, could make the playoffs, but I don't think they're desperate to bring in Diggs. And I don't think the ring-chasing appeal does matter. So it's just contract. And while I do think he'd be very happy to be in New York, maybe he wants to get away from Cardi B. So Stephon Diggs will play somewhere else, in my opinion. But it's not going to be Tampa. It's probably the Commanders. If not, it might be the Ravens. It might be the Colts. It might be the Dolphins. But I think Diggs will get a lot of volume wherever he goes. I think he'll get close to 90 targets, maybe even 100 plus. If he goes to the Ravens, that'd be pretty sweet. But the Commanders are also an excellent spot. I think regardless, Diggs is a very good value at 133. So let's recap the team. We got a 2-3-5-2, Dart and Baker, Hampton, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, Neighbors, Ladd, Carnell Tate, Chris Godwin, Stephon Diggs, Kraft, and Goddard. Feels decent. I might get a little worried about my running back points soon. Not that we're scared at all, but it's just we're entering true handcuff territory. And on drafters, I've noticed that sometimes I talk myself into like, oh, it's full PPR. It's much better to draft a receiver here. But the next thing you know, you look up and the running back room has been depleted and your options are pretty slim. So trying to target guys that just catch the ball at running back is also a viable strategy this late. There's not that many names that will help you out. And I only have 3 so far. I often prefer to have 4 at this point. But there's other teams next to me that really invested early, like the team preferred pronouns, took 5 running backs by Jordan Mason. By pick 111, he had 5 running backs. That's a lot. The other 2 teams next to me have 4 by Chris Rodriguez and J.K. Dobbins. Smith and P also took 5 early on. Had 5 by Rashad White. Okay, at least I'm not team 3. Team 3 is, whoa. Team 3, I think, is probably dead. Team 3 only has one running back, and it's Jonathan Brooks through the first 13 rounds. They have 7 receivers after starting off with 5 straight. They should still have 5. They should have taken running back instead of Tyson and Shaheed. If not some other guys. I think they should definitely have more running backs at this point. So I could be much worse, but most teams have more running backs than I do. Most teams have like 4 or 5. I only have 3. So that's probably a position I will need here. We'll see what happens. But OM Godlike, what's up? Yo, how we doing? Two Mules says, seems like stacking is less important in this format. I agree it's less valuable, but I still think it does carry some weight because the inherent bet that you're right on neighbors also elevates Jackson Dart. So you need to outscore everyone. And if you hit on a player so well that they are indeed like the best pick positionally, then I do think that also has some value to where their quarterback is worth stacking. But I'm going to go with Alvin Kamara on one of these picks. I think PPR value, definitely the play I'd like to go with. And then we could go Travis Hunter, honestly. I think that's pretty interesting. But he's more of a spike week guy, not a total points guy. Tight end is starting to get consolidated. Ooh, this is a nice value on Hunter Henry, but it's right at ADP, so maybe not as important. There's some running backs I like that are about to disappear. You know what? I like him in this contest a lot. I'm actually just going to go with Dylan Sampson. If Dylan Sampson ever gets the job, he is catching a shit ton of receptions. I'm not convinced it was just a Deshaun Watson correlation, but week 1 last year when Quinshon Judkins missed training camp, he did not play week 1. Dylan Sampson got the rock. He was splitting time with Jerome Ford, but in the passing game, he was prolific. 8 targets, 7 catches. The man was on fire. True elite PPR value, if that's something you can expect, if he gets the job. So they moved off of Jerome Ford. It's a new coaching staff entirely. Maybe they're just more committed to Quinshon, but Sampson is the clear backup, the clear handcuff, and definitely talented enough to be a burner in this format. Could really hit a high ceiling. So, like I was saying, worried that running back just dries up too much, and double tapping that position right there, I think was solid. But Cameron says, you tripping on likely he going to be so nice. I mean, he has some great games in his past, but last year was rough, bro. Last year was sad. Damn, he was bad last year. He had very few games. Even his good game against the Bengals, he had like a dropped touchdown. He could have been much better. There's been moments where, you know, his foot is out of bounds. Like, there's a lot of coulda, shoulda, woulda, but didn't with Isaiah Likely. There's elements of Likely's game that just make me a little less convinced he actually does live up to his potential. Undoubtedly, he could be excellent. He does just take over on occasion, but I just don't think he'll be as consistent as some people like. Meanwhile, I really, really like Dallas Goedert. So I could see the path where Likely is a smash right there, but I think the ADP has not quite come around on Goddard enough. Meanwhile, it still believes in Likely off of a lot of projections. There's just a bit more projections than I would like to factor in with Likely compared to Goddard. With Goddard, I just know what I'm going to get. As long as he's healthy, I know exactly the player I'm going to get. With Likely, one week you might get the best player on the field. Another week you could get a guy that just completely disappears because he's just not relevant. He's just not always showing up. Consistency is his main issue. But what's up, GM to our boy, the Fantasy Football Garage, a.k.a. Candyman. Nice to see you, brother. You were live earlier today. Always enjoy catching your live streams. Dope teams drafted over there. Sharp Drafter, friend of the channel, and we've had him as a guest. I've been a guest on his channel. Really fun time drafting with Candyman. If you haven't subscribed yet, check out Fantasy Football Garage here on YouTube. Our boy Chris knows what he's doing. But K-Space asking, is this Underdog? It is not. It is not, my friend. We are 6 clicks away from being done with this draft, but we are on Drafters at the moment. A full PPR season-long contest. And this survival format is basically the eliminator with even better chances to make it all the way. We are in essentially the eliminator, but on drafters. Am I going to do it? Is he going to be there? I think I might have a chance here. I've been talking myself into it. I might go Jerry Jeudy with this next pick. He could be worthless, but I've also kind of just convinced myself he will be traded. I've convinced myself he is the most desirable trade acquisition, and due to the nature of that alone, I think it'll happen. So I will take him here at 180. And then the question is, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to grab him with the stack. I'm going to go with Tua and Jerry Jeudy. The most likely situation for Jerry Jeudy to get traded is to the Falcons. I think there's a world where he gets showcased early on in the season. He's the veteran among rookies. I think next to Fannin, he will get the most targets in September. But by the time we hit October, the rumblings are going to be there. What's the point of seeing what we got with Jeudy? We'll see some flashes out of the rookies, and Jeudy won't be that good. They'll probably move off. If they know what they're doing, they will trade Jerry Jeudy before the deadline, and I think the Falcons are a very obvious spot for him to go. Not only has Stefanski already acquired him, but also his best season of his career was in college, catching passes alongside Tua Tagovailoa in Alabama. So that's the argument on those two clicks. At the moment, they don't make sense together, but I believe by week 9, they will be wearing the same jersey with the same logo. Tua Tagovailoa stacked up with Jerry Jeudy, his old college teammate, hopefully. But there's also a world where Penix is just the guy. There's also a world where Jeudy just stays in Cleveland. But I do believe Jeudy will be a Falcon and play for the Falcons in Atlanta. Yo, what's up, Hartman? How we doing? We were live on Hartman's channel earlier today. That was a fun time. We drafted a Trevor Lawrence, Malik Willis, Cam Ward team. That one was pretty solid. Would have liked maybe a more valuable QB2, but that team still has a good chance. The receiver room's pretty nice. The running back room's pretty nice. And that one was pretty sweet. We also had a nice team in the Badge Bros Brawl. That is easy to like your team in that one, but still that team was pretty sweet, if you ask me. But Cameron says think he puts it all together in New York. He's always had the traits, just have to put it all together. Are we talking about Jackson Dart? Are we talking about Malik Neighbors? Who are we talking about? I'm not sure. But what's up? We do an underdog draft. We're going to do one after this, but that's going to be it for tonight. Only one more draft, and I'll definitely save the underdog lobby for when most of y'all are watching. So tonight, we're mixing up just a little bit. Underdog hasn't dropped a new contest, so there are other options, and I do like this format. The survival contest in the drafters lobby feels like a nice, worthwhile bet. If you make it to week 5, you get your money back. It doesn't really turn into nice money until like week 15, basically. Something like that is really worth your time, but there's $50,000 available to the player who wins first in week 17. So this one is a bit more weighted to week 17 than the other ones, and that's where I do think the stack does kind of matter at times. But the ADP is gross here. Holy shit. I think I'll probably just go Ted Hurst for the stack, but there's not that many players that I like here. Damn, we're down to Colby Parkinson at tight end. I think I'll actually just do that. I'll take him there. Not many names that feel appealing, but could just luck into some touchdowns. There's always that. This late, though, I've talked myself into James Conner being a very good click. I think if I'm going to go with running back, it's going to be in that direction. And yeah, the receivers aren't really speaking to me too much. I think they're all kind of the same. I'll go James Conner. All these clicks are relatively decent. vis-a-vis one another. But in terms of true upside, there's a world where James Conner is actually like their starting running back week 1. I think he will get traded. I think he will play somewhere else. I don't believe he will remain in Arizona either. I think we drafted 2 players where the main bet is a trade with Jerry Jeudy and James Conner. But really talented, at least with Conner. Jeudy has always been a polarizing option, not the most talented, sometimes just a guy, but also has a 40-point game on a team like the Broncos is really impressive. It was a revenge spot. It was with Jameis, but it was also under Kevin Stefanski, and that was the bet I was kind of making when I bet on Jerry Jeudy. I want him with Tua if I'm ever going to take him. That's the whole point, in my opinion. But appreciate that K-Space. Smashing the like button. Thank you very much. But Slayton says, watching quarterback has me believing in Calvin Ridley all over again. Whoa, I'm not there on Ridley. Ridley looked washed last season. Really bad numbers, really injury prone. I am not sold on Ridley, to be honest with you. I would rather bet on Jeudy. If you talked to me a month ago, I looked at both Ridley and Jeudy as kind of both the same bet, where like you hope that one of them gets traded, and it's possible they both do. But if I can only have one, I think given the age of Jerry Jeudy being more appealing, the contract also being cheaper, I think Jerry Jeudy is much more likely to get traded. But Ridley is also in a contract season. An expiring deal is also pretty coveted, and so you just never know who would be on the move. It would make a lot of sense, though, for them to ship him out. They have the 2 year 2 prospects in Chimera DK and Elika Yamanor. They need to get on the field. At least one of them should. And then the bet on Wanda Robinson in free agency, definitely a fade on Ridley, paired up with Carnell Tate at pick 4 overall. There's the writing on the wall. Ridley is not there for the long run in Tennessee. So helping Cam Ward's development as a veteran, maybe helping Tate in the locker room, but how valuable is that? It's a little bit overrated. I think if you can get a 4th or 5th round pick, you would take it. On Ridley, I'm not sure that would happen. I think it's more like a 6th at best, but still maybe someone like the Dolphins get a little desperate and they want him. Maybe there's an injury somewhere else. You know, you never know what might happen. Possibly Calvin Ridley is like playing for the Chiefs potentially. They've traded with the Titans for a veteran receiver before. They took Hopkins away from them. Maybe they try and get Ridley, but Ridley was really bad last year. Ridley was terrible. He had one good game and then immediately got hurt. He looked very old very quickly last season. I'm back on the board. Not many valuable clicks this late. I need another receiver, though. I can talk myself into Elijah Surratt. Definitely can do that. I can also talk myself into Malachi Fields. I don't have any rookies yet on this one. In fact, I have Carnell Tate, actually, but I have a lot of veterans as well. So I'm going to go Fields. I'll take him first, stacked up with Dart. And then we have Tua, Baker, Dart. I think this team just needs the last receiver. And yeah, I'll go Surratt. I think that's fine. I'll take him. This is the full team. We had pick 12. In the survival contest, we have Jackson Dart, pick 108, a nice 8-pick slide. Very high upside from him. Baker Mayfield at 109, double stacked. It was worth it. I did take Tua. We'll see how valuable that is, but I think he plays more starts than Penix will, and every week matters in this contest. So it'll be worth something. I did take him 13 picks above ADP, but at this stage of the draft, it's all a wash. Just get your guys. But Hampton and Chase Brown in full PPR, I like them a lot more. Last time we saw Hampton with Herbert in the regular season against the Texans, he caught 8 catches in that game. Chase Brown is going to average at least 5 receptions per game, so full PPR, they do get a little bump. I like them even more in this contest. But Bucky Irving, a nice, decent value. Not totally sure what his role is going to look like, but he's talented enough to feel like pick 61 is a decent click. I'm glad I took it because my next running back is mostly just a handcuff. Kamara might have some standalone value, but more valuable in full PPR. That's for sure. I also have Dylan Sampson, more valuable in full PPR, absolutely. And then James Conner may not play anywhere, but also might be on the move, might actually be pretty valuable He's pretty talented compared to the other options that late. So I take him a decent amount. I do not give a shit if you think it was odd. I reached by 17 picks. He goes at 225. I took him 205, and my next pick was 228. So in theory, he was not making it back for my next spot. But receiver, we got to bet on Malik Neighbors, and hopefully he's just healthier than expected. But Ladd McConkey, Cardinal Tate have to pick up the slack. Chris Godwin, Stephon Diggs have to stay healthy. Jerry Jeudy needs to get traded, but Malachi Fields and Elijah Surratt, I think, are in very ideal scenarios for rookie receivers. There's absolutely a role up for grabs. Who can claim the number 2 spot in their offense? Maybe they sign a veteran, but Fields, I think, has the best profile to I think at this point, the receiver I want the most in New York, if it's not Neighbors, it's Malachi Fields. You could talk me into Mooney. You can talk me into Slayton a little bit, but I think Fields has the higher upside. I think I'd rather take the gamble on the rookie. But Surratt, another rookie in a very up for grabs target share. The Ravens receiver, too, should be really good, especially since Likely moved on. But Tucker Kraft, Dallas Goedert, and Colby Parkinson, the elite ceiling, paired with some nice touchdown value. The Parkinson click is a little bit random, but we did kind of just dry out at the position a little bit. I maybe should have taken, I don't know, Cade Otton. I don't love that pick. AJ Barner, I prefer. Ferguson or Freiermuth could have been picked as well. But if anyone should have been on the team, it may have been Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry instead of Dylan Sampson might have been valuable, but I don't love any of the running backs that I didn't take after that point. Given the skill set, given the format of full PPR, I think having Kamara Sampson is also pretty sweet there. So the double tap, I have no regrets on, but Hunter Henry could have helped this team a little bit more. I like him, but it wasn't totally necessary. No regrets. Interesting team. Always interesting what works and what doesn't on these drafters contests. The full PPR definitely puts you in a different situation, a different mindset. It isn't as obvious what will work and what won't. But Two Mules was also drafting with us, the only one I recognize. So for the sake of it, I will give him a team review. Glad to see you in here. But whoops, we got Stafford, Brissett, and Geno Smith on this team. Hate the depth, and then Stafford is like at 117, so it's better, but like makes you, I feel like you got pretty lucky to acquire him, honestly. Like if you didn't get him, it could have gotten ugly pretty fast. But Bo Nix was still there. That would have been pretty sweet. I kind of like Bo Nix more than Stafford, though. But you had Puka, so the stack makes sense. I don't like Brissett or Geno very much, though. They're fine, but just cheap. That's kind of the main value there. They have the same ADP. You took both of them well above. 15 picks on Brissett, and then 8 picks ahead on Geno. You felt some pressure. Let's not pretend like you didn't feel some pressure at QB. But Swift, Warren, RJ Harvey, Tyron Tracy, Keaton Mitchell, and Sean Tucker. The floor is okay, but the ceiling feels a little bit limited. There's not that many players I think can drop 20 plus in the same week. So good luck at running back, good luck at quarterback. I would imagine the other positions are pretty loaded. You have 7 receivers in Puka, Nico, Chris Olave. You have DJ Moore, Alec Pierce, Michael Wilson, and Zachariah Branch. There's really no tremendous fall in value on any of these picks. Like literally right at ADP with Puka, Nico, Olave, and DJ Moore. Literally exactly ADP. That's very chalk. So that could be a little troublesome. I think sometimes getting unique is also still pretty important. But then you took 4 tight ends with Gadsden, Ingram, Darnell Washington, and Elijah Arroyo. That is notable. I don't love it. I think this is a very odd, strange team where you kind of wonder, like, where did the draft allocation go? So many receivers early, not a lot of values. Pick 4 is very difficult. I will say that. Pick 4 is never easy. But, like, across the board, this team feels very mid. Like, receiver is top heavy. Receiver has a lot of decent depth. but that's really the only spot um, where I feel great about it. Like, I don't know how much I want the fourth tight end. Um, but I haven't drafted in this contest ever before this season. Like, I literally signed up for drafters like a month ago, and this is maybe like my eighth team. So, like, this is just maybe not the direction I would want to go in. I think more capital to running back might have been preferred. But, like, what was available to you? You did pass on Jeremiah Love. That's a choice. Kyron's pretty good, but running back kind of dried up. Forced to take Swift at 45. Yeah. I can see how pick 4 and pick 3 got kind of boxed out over the course of this one. Sometimes it just happens. But yeah, for a running back room that doesn't feel the best, I feel like quarterback should be stronger. So good luck with the quadruple tight end. But this one feels a little bit odd. Not gonna lie. Just a little bit odd. But I don't have much experience. I might just be way off base on what works and what doesn't. I'm not sure. But you also just need floor in the survival contest. The floor is so critical. So in that regard, like, who am I to judge at all? There's also an element of like, as long as you're not last, it's fine. But I think as the contest gets further and further, the cream is going to rise to the top, and the really strong teams are the ones you go up against every week down the stretch. So that's where I'm not convinced if 4 tight end Bill is one of the strongest teams. I think if Stafford was like QB2, I think I'd feel a little bit better. But there's so many different dynamics at play. I might be wrong, but running back feels like it could have been a little bit better. That's my honest opinion. And we'll see. I might be totally accurate. I might be dead wrong on what works and what doesn't. But we'll find out. Find out together. Thanks for joining us, though. But for this format, Two Mules, I think to answer your question, if my player takes are wrong, then yes. But if my player takes are right, I think you're really, really dependent on DeAndre Swift. I think Swift is so important to you. In my opinion, it's not my favorite way to go about it. I think I would have taken Jeremiah Love instead of Chris Olave. Or Breece Hall. Breece Hall is actually very good in this contest because of the PPR format. Actually, yeah, I think in PPR, I would rather have Breece Hall than Jordan Love. I think that's the one choice I might have changed. Breece over Olave could have helped a lot. Because then instead of like RJ Harvey or Jalen Warren, you're drafting a quarterback or a really good receiver. I think that might have been the play. Even like Jalen McMillan over Tyrone Tracy could have also been pretty sweet in theory. But yeah, pick 4 is very tough. It's never an easy spot to be in. But Slayton, Judy can also rejoin Stefanski in Atlanta, the dude who brought yeah, exactly. This is where I think he will go. I think it makes the most sense for him to be a Falcon. Hartman, what percent chance does Fannin have to lead the Browns in receiving? I would put it fairly high. I would say it's like 55%. I would say it's just slightly above a coin flip. It's not a lock. I think there's a world where Concepcion is just that good, but like I would put it at least 55, 65% Fannin. Let's say 60, and then I'd put it like 30% on Concepcion, 35%, and then there's like, 5% chance that it's one of like Judy or Boston. But Fannin feels like the true play for volume in Cleveland. But Cameron says Ayamanor, the backstack guy with Ward. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. Last year, Kamari DK was much more valuable when he had a good connection. I'm not exactly sure what the roles will look like, but I think they drafted Kamari DK first for a reason. Maybe it's just for special teams purposes, but I'm a bit more inclined to go with DK than Ayamanor, but I don't think either of them have much value in the first place. Fantasy Lab says Chase Brown's going to make me happy this year. Too many people are low on him from my experience. I think he's a much better pick in full PPR, but he's definitely one of the like totally worth it picks in the top of the second. All those running backs are great. He's one of the ones on the best offenses Totally a good pick. Very valid. To be high on him. But the FF Nerd Drafter is the only best ball apps I haven't tried yet. Survival is interesting. Might give it a shot now. If you are going to sign up, I don't have a promo code with them. I'm not affiliated with them. I joined using promo code WHO. Shout out our boy Who Hames has a very sweet deal. They will match your first deposit 1-for-1 ratio. You up to $100. You deposit $100, you'll have 200 in your account. I can attest to this. It worked for me. I had $100 in bonus entries to play with when I joined Drafters about a month ago. But what's up? Like the video. Appreciate that, Fantasy Lab. Thank you very much. We're sitting at 20 likes at the moment, and we're about to enter an Underdog lobby. Once I catch up with the chat, I will get to it. But it was past 10 when I entered LOI. I think you need to refresh. We are not entering just yet. I'll definitely count it down. I definitely didn't let you... there's no rug pull tonight. Definitely didn't say to enter yet. But we can do an eliminator or something. Let's add a poll. I think eliminator makes the most sense. I'm not going to do weekly winners, but we could do eliminator or the BBB, the Badge Bros Brawl. If I had to guess, you guys are going to vote for eliminator, but I'm going to leave it up to the poll. Leave it up to the audience. A real quick one. We'll find out soon, but I'm not afraid to give my straight up opinion. That's really the only point of the team reviews, my honest, full, unfiltered opinion. And it's possible I'm just wrong. I do not underestimate my capacity to also just be wrong. There is also that, but should I sugarcoat being wrong? No, if I'm going to be wrong, I'd rather be wrong for something I believe than something I lied to you about. You know, to lie just so that you like me and subscribe and then be wrong about it, that's not how I want to play it. I want to be authentic, and if there's picks I don't want to make, I'll be straight up about it. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, I'm right. That's the game we play. It is what it is. But Quaid says fourth tight end should have been extra back or receiver. Probably more valuable than the fourth tight end. I would rather be picked 8 through 12 than 4 through 7 this year. That's a very, very good point. Pick 4, you can justify getting very, very different if you want. But damn, I might need more Fannin. Based on my percentages, I think the target share is a little overrated. I still want touchdowns. I still want a good offense, and I still want a team that puts up points. The leading target share in Cleveland isn't as appealing as like even the number 2 in a much better offense. Like, you know, would you rather have T. Higgins' target share or Harold Fannin's target share? It's higher on Fannin. The percentage is higher, but I'd rather have T. Higgins by far. I think I'd rather have Kyle Pitts than Fannin. Fannin's still a little bit meh of a pick, but if they do trade Judy, he does become more appealing. That's for sure. It would help all other Browns a little bit if Judy got traded, but yeah, I'm not convinced anyone needs that much more Fannin. It's fine, but it's not the most necessary thing in the world. He used to go so much sooner. Remember when Fannin was going like ahead of Tucker Kraft? That was crazy. That was wild. But 2 meals in a cart. So is it possible to be eliminated with one bad week, even if you're first overall, let's say in week 8? Or does your overall points save your ass? No, every week it resets. You're in a new slate every single time, and you just can't finish on the bottom. The advance rate up until like week 15 is about the top 75%. So 3 out of 4 chances you will make it every single week. But keep in mind, in theory, it gets tougher and tougher every single week because the better teams will stay alive, and it's a new slate every time. So making sure you don't bottom out any given week is also very valid and important. That's what makes maybe the stacks less coveted, but draft allocation is still important. And to get stuck with Brissett and Geno Smith doesn't feel too good. So there's some things that still I think you need to keep in mind, despite the more of a floor play type of way to address it. But Cameron, I like weekly winners, allows you to make some interesting single quarterback builds. There is that. I had a New York Giants quarterback build the other day in weekly winners, but that's what's nice about drafters. If you enter the main contest, the main event, they also have weekly winners built in. The highest given score every week wins $5,000, and then you still get like 1,000 if you're like in the top 20, I think. Maybe no, I don't think it's that high, but top 10, I think you still get like 1,000 if I'm not mistaken. In the regular drafters main event, there's also weekly winners built in. That one's pretty sweet, but this may have been the worst team I have ever seen. My team? You talking about my team? Or I don't think Two Mules team is the worst I've ever seen. Definitely not the worst. I've seen much worse teams. Maybe my team's ass. I think my team's okay. I think Two Mules team is also okay. There's elements of just safety that also are at play with Two Mules and a Carts team. But Fantasy Live, I hate the 104. To be honest, it's been my least favorite spot this year. I would agree. 104 is disgusting. And I'm not that sold that Puka is actually worth it. But Game Tight, smashing that like button. Thank you very much. I see weekly winners not in the poll. No, not again. We're not going to do that again. We did it yesterday. We scratched the itch. Never again. I don't see the point ever again. But the poll has spoken. We got 13 votes and 77% are in favor of the eliminator. That's not going to change anytime soon. So we will move on to that. The eliminator is 50% full, 49.9 to be exact. And it's basically the same format, just a little bit more difficult because it's a 50% chance of getting eliminated as opposed to only 25. In drafters, you have a smaller pool of opponents, but you have a higher chance of advancing every single week. So in this one, those chances are cut by 30%, 33% less, relatively speaking. It is more difficult in the eliminator on Underdog than it is on the survival contest on drafters. So keep that in mind. It's different, but it's the same buy-in. And this contest halfway full. I do want to make some entries. We're going to be hopping in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. 3 spots left. Come on down. I'm going to get some water. I'll be right back. All right. I get pick 8. I love pick 8. One of my favorite spots to be in. Very happy with pick 8, but all good, Sanka. No worries. No worries at all. Let's go, Danimal. Indeed. Danimal has pick 12. Fish Burrito has pick 11. Sladen in at the 10. Burgess in at 9. King Demond at the 7. FF Fiasco at the 6. M40 and a bunch of numbers at pick 5. Sanka pulled the 104. Let's go. Good to see you, Sanka. We got Sports Do at pick 3. Game Tight took Bijan and Gohorns. Drafted Gibbs. Welcome, everyone. Good luck. Let's readjust. Let's pivot back to our Underdog setup. I think that's the best spot for the chat. But my face is probably better served up top. Probably that's the better move. Let me Let me adjust that. I am on the clock, though, and sweet! The player I want the most is Amon-Ra. Let's take him. The Lions matchup against the Saints is pretty nice. That's pretty sweet. Yeah, there we go. Lock it. Let's get some music bumping, though. We haven't played music tonight. Let's get it going. Let's bring in the soundtrack. And if anything, probably going to smoke some weed as well. This is our last draft of the evening. I'm not doing another one. But appreciate everyone for popping in, sticking around for something different. I know the drafters lobby's a little bit different, not as desired by the more mainstream crowd, but definitely I think worth our time to go over there. Not afraid to get a little bit different sometimes. Can't be afraid of change. Can't be afraid of change, but let's end the poll just so I don't mislead any of y'all that we're doing a third draft. But if I get my boy, I'd be ecstatic. I don't expect to get my boy, but who knows? Who knows what's in store? Hampton goes. That was my boy. I know Burgess likes that team, though. Saquon's still here. I love Saquon in this contest, actually. I think his opening schedule is fantastic. I also love Hampton's opening schedule. But Saquon's actually one of my favorite picks in this Eliminator contest, more specifically. Especially half PPR opposed to full PPR. Saquon probably gets hurt. That's kind of the main bet I've been making. But if he doesn't, then he will be a much better pick. But until he does, he's a fantastic pick. There's no way that Bigsby is stealing his role until he gets hurt. So Saquon is the man. His first 3 weeks have really good spots. Opening game is against the Washington Commanders. He's going to dominate in that one. No fear at all. And then week 2, I believe he's against the Tennessee Titans. Either them or the Jets. I'm pretty sure it's the Titans. And then week 3, he gets the Chicago Bears, which last year was, I believe, a top 6 matchup for opposing running backs. They were great in the secondary, forced a lot of interceptions and turnovers, but they were actually a very good spot for the running back position. So I love the opening schedule for Saquon, and you know he's getting a shit ton of volume. I would assume the team gets better with a bit of a bounce back. So I don't think that was all it was, Slayton. I think Hampton's just a really good pick, and I think Burgess knows what he's doing by taking Hampton over Saquon. But I like both of them a lot more in this contest specifically. I love the opening schedule. Those first 3 weeks are so important. If you can make it to week 4, you still don't get paid, but you've entered the top 12.5% of the contest. In general, you enter any other lobby, you have a 16% chance, 16.7 to be precise, chance to make it to week 15. You only have a 12.5% chance to make it to week 4 in the Eliminator. So early season schedule matters. Saquon, I think, was neglected in round 2. Saquon I love in this format, but I think Allen is pretty valuable as well in this. I do think he can help you a lot. I don't like his week 1 matchup, but after that, it's a 1v1 type of circumstance, and you know, it's the first game of the season. He probably steps up. He probably plays pretty well. I don't mind Allen at all in the Eliminator format. I think having the Elite onesie is actually a little bit more advantageous at times. And I think if you can get past week 1 where Allen maybe doesn't hit your lineup because it's against Houston, there's no way you're not going to feel worried about an Allen team that makes it through. And you also don't need to finish first in week 1. You can also still just finish 6th and make it. So it's very important we exit the pod, but I really don't mind the 1-1-1 strategy here in the Eliminator contest. But Quaid in at pick 11. What's up, Fish Burrito? You go Genty, Lamb, Travis Achan, and David Montgomery at 38. That is also a player that mostly factors in due to his early season schedule. The early weeks for Montgomery are fantastic. He gets the Bills in week 1, but I really like Ladd early on. His week 1 schedule, though, isn't the best. Actually, I think I'm just going to go Scatabo. I think Scatabo's going to be healthy. I'm more concerned about Scatabo getting hurt down the stretch than being out for week 1. So it could be more of a committee in week 1, him and Tracy, just to ramp him up. But he gets the Cowboys, not a matchup I fear. I think he will be pretty good. But the Buffalo Batmen, judging by the New Jerseys. The Buffalo Batmen. I'm not familiar. This does not make sense to me. I just don't get references sometimes. Like, I don't mind admitting if something just goes over my head and like I'm not sure what that. I'm fine learning. I have no idea what the Buffalo Batman, judging by the New Jerseys. What? The fuck does that mean? Sladen, I got no clue, but Miley Cyrus feels like she got weird with age, right? Like the Miley Cyrus you expected when you got introduced to her through Hannah Montana. Not sure if anyone expected that. So this comment not making sense to me. Said by Hannah Montana herself. Maybe that just tracks. But no, today the Bills unveiled the new jersey. It's awful. Looks like Adam West 50s style Batman. Really? It looks that bad? They have a new stadium this year. Why would they get that crazy with jerseys and just go throwback? That's interesting. Okay, I'll have to look that up. I'm going to look that up on my phone. Bills new jerseys. Show me the images. Oh, okay. Yeah, they're gray. Yeah, that's kind of boring. The helmets are a little interesting, but yeah, it looks kind of boring. Adams falls back as a team that can definitely use him. I will just take him here. I think touchdown-wise, it's a very, very safe bet. And the fall in value, pick 56, I think that's way too low on Adams. I think Adams versus Terry McLaurin is very legit. Now, Ladd fell to 44 in this one. That's interesting. But Adams at 56, I'm always happy with that. But receiver always kind of falls a little bit in the eliminator. Running backs are pretty coveted. You need the starting value. You need the starters. You need the guys who are there in the lineup ready to go. And as long as my guys are healthy, I'm not afraid of what they can offer me. But yeah, Sanka, I would agree. They look okay. They're not amazing. I wouldn't say I'm like impressed, but I'm also not like wanting to vomit. They're not disgusting. They're not that gross. They're just a little bit mid. They're fine. Nothing wrong with that. But Miley the GOAT. Miley's pretty impressive. Miley's just the Disney childhood star. That effect needs to be studied. That effect never seems to be the most positive. But she's got a shit ton of money. She's doing well for herself. I'm sure she's all right. It could have been much worse. If anything, it could have been far, far worse. If anything, Miley probably deserves more credit than I'm giving her. But I will say her speaking voice is a little bit shocking sometimes. Just a little bit unexpected, but to use your voice like that and have that much range, very impressive. A lot of talent, undeniable talent with Miley Cyrus. Undeniable talent. Austin Burgess, I don't even smoke, but Slayton just made me feel high after that comment. I know, right? Sometimes there's comments that are like very specific and like if you understand what they're talking about, it makes total sense, but like out of context, it's just like, the fuck are you saying? The new, like, I totally thought you meant the state of New Jersey. I 100% thought you were talking about New Jersey, the state on the map, not that they had new uniforms. In no way was my mind going there. Not at all. But metallic gray. The helmet's pretty metallic, but the gray, how metallic can gray be? With the bright periwinkle arm sleeves, it gets rougher. For real on Disney Stars, surviving to adulthood. If anything, Miley made it out pretty fucking well. If anything, Miley figured it out over the course of time. You know, there may have been a stretch where like some questionable things were happening, but like in terms of where she is now, vis-a-vis like, you know, Britney Spears is like a very cautionary tale. You know, no judgment, but Miley Cyrus probably doing pretty well by comparison. Yeah, that's great. That's good for Miley. No salvia anymore. Remember the salvia video? That may have been like the turning point. The salvia video introduced me to it. I never heard about salvia before Miley Cyrus. That's for sure. But okay, we have Allen, Saquon, Scatabo, Amon-Ra, Adams, and Odunze. Tyson falls to 80. That's pretty sweet. I do like that. I wouldn't mind the Justin Herbert pick, but the double week 7 bye at quarterback unstacked, not my preference. I have plenty of Herbert teams, so I'm just going to stick with Tyson at pick 80. I think that's pretty sweet. I also think to be worried about the rookie in this context, I understand it, but his talent I think is really undeniable. And I also love his week 1 matchup. He gets the Lions week 1. I think the Saints are actually really valuable pieces to help you advance. We get the week 1 bring back Amon-Ra and Jordan Tyson. And I think however we go about it, pairing up Josh Allen with either Goff or Tyler Shuck is going to be pretty sweet. So we have some outs. There's also Matthew Stafford available as well in terms of stacking partners. So this team's all good. This team's pretty sweet, but we'll be all right regardless. But Slayton says New Jersey is where the fake New York teams all play. That's a very valid point, my friend. That's a very valid point. But who has more Super Bowl rings? The fake New Jersey teams or the actual New York team? Damn, running back is drying up right now. Holy shit. Yeah, I'll just stick with Blake Corum. Totally fine pick, totally fine. A little bit mid, but the coach speak could bump him up pretty fast, and it sounds like he probably does have a pretty consistent weekly role. So I'll go Blake Corum. I think that's totally fine. Totally chill. That was a good one. That was a good one. This is very true, Best Ball on Call. We've all had a questionable stretch, especially in your 20s. No one makes strictly good decisions in their 20s. Everyone has some weird choices at some point. But if anything, not gonna lie, when I was a kid, when I was a teenager and Hannah Montana was a show, you bet your ass I had a crush on Miley Cyrus. You bet your ass. She's only like maybe 2 years older than me if I had to guess. Not more than like 3 years older. We might be like the same age, potentially. I think she's maybe a year or two older if I had to guess. So, fond of Miley Cyrus, wishing her well, all the success still left in her future. All right, this team is coming together. We're in the 9th round, and people are definitely using the clock. I feel like this draft is going a little bit slower than typical. But at the moment, we rock in the 1-3-4-0 with Allen, Saquon, Scatabo, and Blake Corum. Receiver room, Amon-Ra, Devontae Adams, Rome Odunze, and Jordan Tyson. Jaden Reed off the board. Michael Wilson off the board. Ricky Pearsall off the board. I'm honestly kind of shocked that Tucker Kraft is still here at 104. That's a really big fall. That's not something I would expect typically. I like him a lot. I'm just going to take him. I think my receiver room's good enough not to force Xavier Worthy on this team when I get the really unique price discount on Tucker Kraft. Pick 88 ADP, 104 off the board. I do believe he's the 5th best tight end. I think him and Laporta are close, but I do have him ranked above Laporta, and Laporta went in 88, where Kraft normally comes off the board. They basically swapped ADPs, and then Kraft still kept falling. So that's pretty interesting. I'm not really sure why everyone passed. I didn't really want to jinx it. I was hopeful he would make it, but I didn't expect it. So I made sure I did not speak it into existence. I waited and waited, but Kraft did make it back. At 104, that feels like a great pick, honestly. I'm really happy with our Tucker Kraft pick right there. Is Kraft for sure starting week 1? I kind of don't give a shit. I believe he will, though. I'm not afraid of it. But I guess that's a valid question. I wouldn't be too afraid of that scenario. Here, I think quarterback is pretty critical, and I think that week 1 game is pretty important. I'm forgetting who Kyler plays, but here's the thing. I have Shuck with Jordan Tyson, and I actually trust him a lot. He gets that Lions game, like I mentioned, so if I am screwed with Josh Allen against Houston all of a sudden, like he sucked last year, he sucked in the past. If I am screwed with that, I'm pretty comfortable with Tyler Shuck as a consolation prize. Not going to lie, if I did not get Tyler Shuck in the next round, I'd be pretty, maybe not terrified, but kind of upset. I think with Shuck, I can just stop at 2. I'm totally fine with that. Having Allen, that's kind of the main approach I'd like to have. I'll go with Shuck over Kyler, over Jordan Love. I think just getting the matchup, I really like week 1. The Detroit Lions is the main argument I want to bet on. I also have Tyson stacked up as nice, but I'm forgetting who the Vikings play week 1. I think the Vikings actually have a pretty good matchup. If I had to guess, it's not that bad. But they're versus Green Bay. Micah Parsons is not on the field. It's going to be a home game. That's pretty sweet. But the Saints at Detroit, I think, are going to be in major catch-up mode. I think garbage time is a huge factor. I could also see them just be competitive enough to keep it an interesting game all 4 quarters. But Shuck will be tested. I think I still could see Shuck play a little bit better than Kyler week 1. So I'm fine with that choice. I have no issue with it. And who knows? Maybe Kyler just makes it back. That's also possible as well. But Ryan, I always have to take longer in this because I actually have to go look through the buys. That's fair. That's pretty relevant. It's only because Kraft was put on PUP. Kraft on the training camp PUP. But I have too much Kraft. Yeah, I guess that's bad. But I'm fine not being afraid of it. It's not the actual PUP. And I think he can still just contribute. But with that in mind, I think getting another tight end I like is also pretty viable. Not a bad choice at all. Who does Kelsey play week 1? Versus Denver, not my favorite spot. Likely is... Who does he play? Versus Dallas, not bad. But honestly, I just trust Kincaid a little bit more. Plus the stack with Allen, I'm going to go with that. Give me Dalton Kincaid as my tight end too. I think that's perfectly fine. Kincaid just needs to be healthy to pay off, but I definitely expect him to be healthy. And if you told me I want one of the pass catchers week 1 with Allen, it's not going to be the receivers. Against Derek Stingley and the Houston Texans secondary, they don't have Jalen Petrie anymore, but still their coaching is amazing. Their players are really fast and hit hard. I would rather have the tight end than the receiver against Houston. So Dalton Kincaid stacked up, come on down. If we have anything to fear on Tucker Kraft, I think Dalton Kincaid can compensate for it. I have no issue with this pick. Especially with Allen, feels pretty sweet. And we can still just take a third if we want. We can stop at 2 quarterbacks, so 3 tight ends. Totally a viable strategy. 5 picks allocated to those 2 onesies is always fine. But here is an interesting spot. Just for the floor, I could go quarterback. That's kind of the main value here. But I think just getting back in at receiver is also pretty sweet, pretty valid, pretty fair strategy overall. There's not that many I like moving forward, but while Shaheed is a high spike week guy, that's still important. You never really know what score threshold you're going to have to clear in order to win a week. I still just want the best picks available, and we're still playing best ball. I still want a guy that can drop, an 18-pointer without me being surprised. I would expect that for Shaheed on multiple occasions. There'll be a 12-point play here, a 12-point play there, and a few other catches where he is just one of the guys that really pays off in a given week. Gonna disappear the week after probably, but I think at least like 5-6 times Shaheed can find the end zone and also contribute enough to be worth this pick. So back in at receiver, we're starting 3 of them every week. If Shaheed hits the lineup, it's because he did hit his spike week potential. We used to take him in years past in like the 110s, in the 9th round, in the 100s sometimes, and he always paid off. He didn't have a single bye last week. He didn't have a single training camp with the Seahawks. He got the contract extension. He got all of training camp, and I think they will throw a bit more this season, so I like Shaheed a lot. I think he's a pretty good pick in best ball. But I can understand just the nature of what people think is the safer way to play this, just attacking the floor. I can also understand people just not liking it very much. It's a bit more of a high variance play, and that is sometimes not what people like in Eliminator. But I'm not afraid. I am not scared of Rashid Shaheed. Keaton Mitchell falling a little bit in this one. Down to 148, a much more reasonable price. The 1304 feels way better than the 1201. But I will say I'm tempted to grab Daniel Jones here. Quite tempted. Just because I think he's a good value. He goes off the board, so that is removed from my decision making. I think grabbing someone like Kamara could be pretty valuable in this. He's on more of the floor spectrum, but early season points I think are definitely the play for him. He scares me a lot in terms of health down the stretch. And if you told me I need to cover Cam Scatterbo in the early season, I would assume Kamara has a much higher chance to contribute then, as opposed to later. Also playing off the Tyler Shuck selection, another New Orleans Saint, stacks up decently well. Against Detroit, their run defense is pretty good. But in garbage time, I could also see Kamara really step up. So maybe he's got one more season left in the tank where he can really crush. There might be some big spikes from him, but especially with Shuck, it makes some sense. And I also like him more in this contest. I'm very fearful, very legitimate expectation that Kamara is not on the field. Week 13 and later. Last few seasons, he has not made it to December. Reliably, he's always off the field when we get to the money weeks. So playoff-wise, not the best play, but in the Eliminator, we're just trying to show up in the first few games. The Eliminator is much different. Much, much different. So the veteran running back as opposed to the new free agent. Probably a solid play week 1. I love Tank Bigsby, but not as much in this format. Brenton Strange feels pretty solid, though. I kind of want to just take Strange. It's the same buy as Kincaid, but like this is a really solid pick in general. It's 7 picks past. I have no concern about Kraft's availability week 7, so we're just locked into him, but that's totally fine with me. I mentioned I wanted a third tight end, and Strange is usually off the board before Juwan Johnson. Juwan Johnson went well above Strange in this one at 145, so the stack with Shuck was never the play. We get Kamara instead, and then Strange is still on the board. So in round 14, I think that's a very, very solid pick. I'm happy with it. I do like Schultz a lot in this format too, but I still want upside. I still want touchdowns more so than just volume. And I think with Kraft, with Kincaid, we have so much upside. Sticking with upside is not a bad move. It's like, in order to hit the lineup, you still need a pretty high score. But Ryan says, I like Kraft too and take him in other formats, but I don't know about Eliminator. I suppose I get that, but at least in this contest, his ADP has been 88. His ADP has been 88. To get him at 104, that's just value. I'm just taking the value, but you can always piece together tight end. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. But Fantasy Lab says, I'm so high on Kraft this year. His ADP is way too low. There are many people who are smarter than I am who feel very convicted that Kraft is one of the best picks on the board. And especially at 104, it feels pretty nice. But I suppose I understand some of the hesitation. Austin, yeah, you always do that. You draft Kraft and Bowers together almost every day, so I can pass on Kraft every once in a while. Laughing my ass off. Valid. Very valid. But I imagine you would have taken him with Laporta at 105. If I had to guess, had I passed, you would have taken your guy at 105. You're just going to leave him for me? All right. Would it really be a nice and blunt team without him? Typically speaking, it wouldn't. So I'm scooping him up. I'm taking Tank Bigsby for the vibes, for the good mojo. When Saquon does get hurt, we're just pivoting to Tank Bigsby, and it's a seamless transition. We are locked into every Philadelphia Eagle running back point. No worries about Will Shipley. We get the RB1 and RB2 in Philly behind one of the best offensive lines. I think in this format, it's not a bad way to play it. Not bad at all. Every week, one of my running back slots, other than week 10, is the Eagles RB, whoever that is. I'm not upset about that, because then if Scatabo doesn't hit our lineup, all we need is for either Blake Corum or Kamara to figure it out. And I trust Scatabo enough to be fine with that. But 15th round, James Conner, I kind of respect it, honestly, especially if he's active. It's early in the season. Conner has injury risk for sure. So I think it's valid. I don't mind it. Not at all. Danimal's also at the bookend. I think it's totally legit. Getting back in at receiver, probably a good choice. I'm going to go Trey Harris. Love his early season schedule. And there are some lockdown corners that factor in. The Arizona cornerback, I believe it's Mike Johnson. I think so. Let me make sure. Will Johnson. Their cornerback Will Johnson, I think is actually pretty legit. Last year dealing with some injuries. I actually could envision Lad McConkey lined up against Will Johnson in the first game, and he kind of sucked. Maybe he's lined up on QJ, but I could see a world where week 1 against Arizona, the Chargers just come out swinging, and they want to just get this year 2 prospect a little excited for the season. And I could totally see Trey Harris have like a random touchdown. I think Herbert's going to crush week 1, so betting on a Charger. I need at least one Charger on every team. I have a quota, basically. So it fulfills my needs. It fulfills all of the quota requirements. We didn't get out of this draft without at least one Charger. I made myself proud. But did I snipe you? You have T-Law. I probably sniped you on Brenton Strange. That's my guess. That would be my guess. But the starting running back for Arizona, haha. You know what? According to reports, yeah, that's what they said today. James Conner is the leader in the clubhouse for week 1, RB1. Week 1's always weird. Week 1's always very strange. Week 1, I could totally see it. Week 2, is he playing for the Arizona Cardinals? That is up for debate. I could see him either traded or just injured immediately and on IR for the season. Week 2 is not guaranteed for James Conner, but week 1 probably might just score a touchdown for old time's sake. But I've been doing it a lot on drafters where there's 20 rounds. I've been taking James Conner a lot more there. But I've also started to do it myself. It's probably fine. It's probably okay. But Slayton, speaking of, I think this is where I'm going here. I definitely think that's a valid, valuable option. Keenan, I feel pretty safe with, is going to play. And week 1, especially if it's with the Colts, it's because Alec Pierce isn't fully healthy. Week 1, he should contribute. I'll go Keenan Allen with some confidence there. Old man veteran, probably not as good in the later weeks of the season. That's definitely what happened last year. He was so much better weeks 1 through 5, 1 through 7. He kind of fell off weeks 8 through 17. So hopefully that pays off. I like that pick a lot. Question is, do I need a 6th running back or do I want an 8th receiver? Amon-Ra, Adams, Roma Dunze, Tyson, Shaheed, Trey Harris, Keenan Allen. Tight end is pretty sweet. I think I get some flex points out of that as well. Running back, I think, could use the help. Quarterback is strong with Allen and Shuck. I think quarterback's fine. Kirk Cousins went. I would have maybe thought about it. Tua is definitely off the board at this point. The running backs don't feel that valuable. Honestly, it's not really speaking to me. Meanwhile, receiver, always gross. But I kind of like Torrey Horton a little bit. I'm gonna put Torrey Horton on this team. I'm fine with that because at this point I'm just seeking touchdowns. That's the name of the game for Torrey Horton. If you told me he had a few more 4-catch, 30-yard touchdown games, wouldn't be shocked at all. He was a nice red zone threat, and he should be healthier in year 2. So just mixing and matching, just getting another piece. If Shaheed doesn't hit the lineup, it's a little bit more likely it's because Torrey Horton finds his way into the end zone. So the 2-5-8-3 in the eliminator, I'm not totally sold if this is my favorite way to go, but this is an Allen team, so that's always an interesting strategy to play. We have Tyler Shuck gets Detroit week 1. So if Allen sucks week 1 against the Texans, Shuck, I think, will cover our bases. I think we can still finish top 6 with Tyler Shuck if that's what we get stuck with. But Allen typically is going to give me a nice cheat code every single week, assuming I advance. But Saquon and Bigsby every week locked into Philly. I love that. Scatabo, willing to trust him. Blake Corum getting some coach speak and a good offense in general. That's a safe bet. Kamara, if he is valuable, it's in the beginning of the year. In the Eliminator, that's definitely more coveted. But Amon-Ra, the bring back on Tyler Shuck week 1 against the Saints. His week 1 last year wasn't the best, but still I think he's probably a very safe play week in, week out. An elite floor. But Adams, Roma Dunze, Tyson stacked, Shaheed, and Torrey Horton with Trey Harris at 185, and then Keenan Allen as well. Ideally, as long as Keenan goes anywhere but the Chargers, we're in business with the Trey Harris breakout. But tight end, we got the massive fall on Kraft despite the pup in training camp. I think buying the dip, totally worth it. 16 picks is a lot for someone that goes in the top 100. Be afraid all you want, but there's still good tight ends later on. And if you're not afraid of starting your draft with Kincaid as your tight end 1, then to pretend like you can't figure it out is, I think, a little bit naive. So just give me the fall in price, especially if I make it to like week 4, week 5 with Kraft. Maybe it's lesser owned. Maybe I have one of the best players at the position moving forward. But Kincaid and Strange feels really, really valuable. We took Kincaid stacked up just above ADP, but got a nice 7-pick slide on Strange. The double week 7 bye, not a concern, especially at tight end with 3 of them. So fun team, big bet on Allen, but love it. Love the Eagles bet at RB. And then obviously Scatabo or Corum need to pay off, but I think we can get away with that. I think we're fine. Yeah, solid team. I wouldn't say it's like my favorite team I've ever drafted. The price of Allen is definitely like, comes at a cost, but I think it's all right. I think in the Eliminator, it's fine. But, yo, what's up, Peppertoni? Fimpst, as always, thank you for popping in. It's a bit late for you guys, but here on the West Coast, it's 11:30, so still not too crazy. Slash Ducks. I click Connor on DK, which is also 20 rounds. I feel better about it round 19 than round 17 or 16, Like, round 18 is totally fine, but 19 feels way better than round 16. That's for sure. Allen and Horton are good picks. In this contest, they feel decent. Horton's fine. Horton's not super special. He's nothing bad, though. It's totally legit. But Burgess on the East Coast, Peppertoni is a night owl. It's as late as 228 over there for y'all. But that was my team. Let's take a look at some members in this one. Go Horns pulled the 101. He's got Bo Nix, Jackson Dart, and Geno Smith. That checks out. I got no issue with that. Totally legit. Gibbs, Beischel, Tootin, Dobbins. I love Dobbins in this format. At 73, I think that's totally fine. We got Tyjae and B-Rob. That is okay. I got no issue there. No problem. London, Nico Collins, Jalen Waddle, Parker Washington, Wandale Robinson, Darnell Mooney, and Pat Bryant. The only overlapping buy is Pat Bryant and Waddle on the same team, and then Nico and Darnell Mooney in week 8, but otherwise it's very balanced. So receivers, very fun. Running back doesn't have that issue either. Tight end has Fannin, Juwan Johnson, Gunnar Helm. So yeah, bye weeks are never an issue on this team. That's always important. But player take-wise, you got some fun clicks here. Running back is a little bit fragile, but I think ultimately with Gibbs, it's always going to be sweet. And then tight end feels pretty nice as well. Fannin 120. That's not bad. That is not bad at all. Gunnar Helm 192 is also kind of interesting. But now that I'm thinking about it, I didn't look at my team for bye weeks. Did I have a bye week blunder? Just real quick. I had Scatabo and Kamara, the same bye week in number 8. And then obviously Saquon and Bigsby, the same in week 10. So running back could have been better, but it's not the end of the world. A maximum of 2, I think, is the safe play in the eliminator. But receiver, I had week 11 3 times. Otherwise, it's all fine and dandy. And then tight end, we had double week 7, but tight end is totally fine. Totally fine. You had a better bye week allocation, though, Go Horns. You have less risk than I do for that reason. But game type has Lamar Jackson, Tua, and Penix, both of the Falcons. That's definitely a way to play it. Bijan stacks up with them, so that's nice. Javonte at 23 felt a little pressure there, I see. But Quinshon, Judkins, Kenny Gainwell, Jordan Mason, Woody Marks, that feels pretty nice. A lot of volume with the anchor Bijan. And then Javonte, your number 2, is really solid. Yeah, running back is not an issue at all on this team. But did it cost you? That's a lot of allocation to spend. I'm also not convinced you even needed Woody Marks. Woody Marks feels like an unnecessary luxury, to be honest. I think having 5 by Mason, you can only start 3 any given week. I'm starting to look at more teams that win contests, and they're usually more closer to 4 or 5 running backs than 6+. That's usually a safer play. So I think Woody Marks is unnecessary here. That's my honest opinion. Flowers, though, BTJ, Marvin Harrison, Golden Naylor, that's gross. Juwan Jennings and Boston. Yeah, receiver could be a little better. That's for sure. Andrews and Dulcich, though, that's fine in this contest. Got no issue with it. It's not impressive, but it's totally fine. A lot of volume for Dulcich, and it's pretty safe to assume there's a lot of touchdowns for Mark Andrews. So that's fine. Receiver, though, could be better. Golden, I like a lot more as receiver 5 than receiver 4. And to bet on Harrison in the starting lineup most weeks is never ideal. So, yeah, receiver, a little bit expensive. I think having either receiver instead of Mason, Gainwell, or Woody could have been the play in hindsight. But that's always 2020. I also just could be wrong. There's always that. Good luck, game type. I don't mind it. I think the team's interesting. I think a little bit too much spent at running back. Just one too many running back for my preferences. But who knows? In the eliminator, maybe the floor is much better. I think some people underestimate the receiver floor value, though, at times. I think falling behind at receiver is easy to get stuck with and not be too happy about it. But overall, the team has a lot of strengths elsewhere. Receiver just doesn't have the bench to feel great about. Is Sanka a member? I don't think Sanka is a member. If you are, please let me know, but I don't think Sanka is a member. So I think for now I'm going to skip over that. I'm scrolling up. It's been a minute since Sanka's commented, but I don't see it. If I'm wrong, Sanka, let me know. But I'm gonna skip you. Burgess is definitely a member, but Slayton is also a member, and we haven't reviewed Slayton's teams as recently as Burgess's team. So we'll go take a look at Team 10 first. It's Tila and Purdy. Oh, no worries, Sanka. Thank you for letting me know. Tila and Purdy, very, very valid. Totally legit. 2 MVP candidates. Sneaky MVP candidates. That's for sure. Unfortunately, Purdy is a bit injury prone, but that's not a reason to fade him, especially at 106. 11 picks past ADP. That's pretty nice. You have James Cook, Kenneth Walker, Travion Henderson, C-Rod, and Dylan Sampson. That's pretty fun. Fun running back room for sure. High upside, good touchdowns with C-Rod, and then the 2 anchors. Always sweet. The valuable handcuff in Cleveland. But Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, both Ohio State options. That feels like a good, valuable combo. It's basically like you drafted them in the opposite order, however. But I'm surprised that Olave's Detroit matchup week 1 was not something this lobby wanted to click until 39 off the board. He fell 6 spots. That's kind of interesting. But Lemon, Trey Tucker, Travis Hunter, it falls off fast, doesn't it? A.D. Mitchell, Stribling, Tank Dell, and Kayshon Boutte. That is a desperate receiving room down the stretch there. That does not feel very comfortable. The top 2 start off so strong, and then it's just volume and just praying that we hit on a random gold mine. But yeah, this is an interesting lobby. The pull-up on Trey Tucker, I think, speaks to the desperation. But Stribling looks decent if Kirk is actually injured. That's an interesting nugget in the Niners receiving core. Christian Kirk popped up on the injury report recently. So who knows what happens with Stribling's rookie season. If anything, just like Pearsall even more. But Tyler Warren and Kelsey is very nice. That's pretty sweet. So quarterback is fine. Could be great, but mostly just fine. Running back feels fun. A little top heavy, but very fun. Pretty balanced, actually. At the expense, perhaps, though, of receiver. Receiver is just a prayer up for the gods. The fantasy gods, hopefully oblige. But good luck. I think it's totally worth the bet. If Travis Hunter works out for you, this team is really in business. But I think betting on Mekhi Lemon, Trey Tucker, and then a lot of these huge variables week 1, I could see receiver 3 be pretty hard to come by most of the time. I think hitting more than 8 points from receiver 3 is actually kind of difficult. That could be an issue. But the top 2 are very nice. I will say that. All right. Good luck, Sladen. Thank you for drafting with us. And good luck in the contest. We'll see. But Danimal's in here. Danimal's a member as well. He has Mahomes, Rodgers, and Cousins. That's fine. I like Cousins in this format a decent amount. He should be the starter week 1. For how long? I'm not sure. But early season, I think he should be decent. Chase Brown, Achane, Jacobs, Connor, and Katron. Very, very good running back room. That's a lot of fun. Even the Connor pick at 180, I actually really like. Katron, I would take him ahead of him personally, but it's all fair. It's all fine. No issue with that whatsoever. Evans, DJ Moore, Jamo, Godwin, Sutton, Coker, and Debo. Pretty fun. Maybe not the most elite receiver room, but in terms of floor every week, high touchdown upside, good volume bets. I think floor plays are pretty safe with this room. I'd feel pretty good about that. So with Kyle Pitts, Goddard, and Freiermuth, the upside is there at tight end sometimes. Running back definitely has the upside. And then once Mahomes gets rolling, you don't have to count on the floor of Rodgers or Cousins anymore. He should get back to like top 5 ceiling any week, but you never know. You never know. But Game Tight says Naylor's going to crush. I doubt that. I don't trust that. Maybe, but he feels a lot like Dante Thornton light this season. He has the money contract to bet on it, but he's basically Dante Thornton from last year. That's the main bet, in my opinion. I don't think Fish Burrito is a member, but I know he said he was watching. I'm just going to scan it. No commentary until I'm done scanning. Assessment almost complete. I hate the Kenyon Sadiq pick, so that's going to keep it in the B threshold. But I would say just a B. I think receivers totally fine. Receivers fun. Tight end has Loveland, so it's good, but Sadiq sucks in my opinion. Running back gets a little bit thin in terms of depth, but top heavy, and that's mostly what you need, mostly important. Quarterback has Herbert, who could be upset. This team is pretty good. I'd give it a B, if not B+. The Kenyon Sadiq pick, not my favorite. So thanks for drafting with us, Fish Burrito. Lastly, though, we'll take a look at Burgess's team. Goff, Baker, and Malik. That's pretty sweet. Derrick Henry, Hampton at 16. Very good pick on Hampton. Definitely the right call, in my opinion. Rico Daddle, Sean Tucker. Very, very legit. With just 4. I like Rico quite a bit. Sean Tucker might be pushing it, but it's not like it's impossible to work. Last year's winner of this contest won it with James Conner. I'm not sure you want to replicate that, but Sean Tucker probably hits the lineup a few times at the very least. Good luck staying healthy. That's all that matters. I think it'll work out. But receiver has 9 of them. Very loaded receiver room with Igbuka, Higgins, Carnell Tate, QJ, Diggs, McMillan at 153, Ryan Flournoy, Tesla at 184, and then Jalen Tolbert, your boy, at 208. Love to see you holding some restraint, drafting Tolbert in the final round, not round 15 or higher. Love that. It's fine. Honestly, when I see it at 208, I feel way more comfortable with it. It's where it feels appropriate, but it could still be worthless. I think the receiver room didn't need 9, to be honest. I actually like the top 8 quite a lot. Number 9 is definitely a luxury pick. Might be unnecessary. Honestly, RB5 could have been more valuable than Jalen Tolbert, just from a structural standpoint. But the stack with Malik Willis, always interesting. Tight end 3 would have also been interesting. I think that's also another direction you could have gone. But Laporta and Otten. Otten's a super safe floor play, but not much upside unless there's an injury. Laporta is the ceiling bet, though. So that's pretty sweet. That's pretty fun. The double stack with Jared Goff and Tesla. Very, very solid. This is a good team. I like this one. I like this one a lot, actually. Sean Tucker could be a little bit better, but that's just a player take thing and like ADP kind of compelling me to say that mostly. So there is really no issue with that at all. But I could see one of these receivers not be as valuable as tight end 3 or running back 5. That's also in the cards as well. But good team. Very, very solid good team. It should have a shot. I think you can finish top 6 with this type of team. For sure. Will you advance super late in the contest? Who knows? Maybe running back bites the dust when Hampton goes on bye. But they're all different buys, so I think you can tolerate it. I think you're going to be fine. No issue with anything. But, all right. I'm going to take one last rip from the pipe after I catch up with the chat. We're a little bit behind on that, but should be fine. But, yeah, 104, I had to take Kraft. That's for sure. But I have Kraft and Laporta over McBride. Wow, Austin. That is bold. I don't hate it. I think they're much closer than the ADP would suggest. So I think that's fair. Pepper Tony, I'm central, only 1:30, barely even DGen hours. I'm going to go to bed. I know that. I'm getting tired. And it's only 11:45. But Go Horns has a pretty fire quarterback room. Yeah, that was pretty sweet. Team 1 had Nix, Dart, and Geno. Bo Nix and Dart is a really lethal combo. That's pretty sweet. But what's up, Anthony? Nice to see you. Best ball on call in the house. Where at, Tony? Are you not a Naylor guy? They have to throw to someone. I sprinkle in both Tucker and Naylor. I'm mostly Tucker. I'm not in love with Naylor. I think Naylor's a bit overpriced, but it's very inexpensive. He'll be okay, but like I said, he feels like this year's Dante Thornton mostly, and I'm not dying to do it. I'd rather just take Debo or even Tesla or Trey Harris. You could also convince me that Jerry Jeudy's more valuable than Jalen Naylor. Sometimes the contract means nothing. Sometimes a new environment doesn't bode well for a career backup receiver. A number 3 usually doesn't change his stripes all of a sudden. So some spike week ability on Naylor. The contract's interesting, but 15 mil is basically what they gave Gabe Davis a few years ago and end up cutting him after a 13 mil contract. So I don't love Naylor. I don't believe he's going to crush. But is that Kirk Cousins guy? I'm not a believer that Cousins stays on the field past week 4. So that could be irrelevant very quickly. I don't feel like it's worth betting on anyone other than Bowers and Genty for the most part in Vegas. If I'm betting on one, it's Trey Tucker. But for the price, I almost want to just wait until Jack Betch, to be honest. But Slayton is never flexing at receiver. That's definitely a solid way to play it. Jordan James, let's fucking go. He's got some upside, that's for sure. You're welcome, Danimal. You're welcome. Sanka's Naylor will play a lot because of blocking. We will see. Well, if he's blocking, he's probably not getting a target. There is that. There's also that. But they paid him and brought in Cousins. They drafted Mendoza. and 15 mil is just not as valuable as you might think. At receiver, it means a lot less than you might think. It's very annoying because running back a $14 million contract for Travis Achan, and it's like top 7, top 6 or something. But 15 mil for Naylor is kind of worthless. But Slayton, I have zero faith in Naylor, but I'll go to bat for Sadiq. I would not die on the sword of a Jets tight end. Definitely not. But I'll have stacks with the receivers and tight ends, says Burgess. I'm glad your team has that. But Sanka, yeah, I take Naylor some for sure. If he falls, I'll mix him in, but I'm pretty shocked that he just never falls. Like, I get that he moved up, player of the month appeal, but like he deserved to fall at some point. It just hasn't happened. It's pretty crazy to me. But it's fine. It's not the end of the world. It's not amazing. I just trust Bowers. That's how I play it. I'd rather have Trey Tucker. But Rome with a trade question. Amon-Ra and Etienne for James Cook and Olave. Interesting. Very interesting. I think that's a valid trade. I think that's a pretty fair trade, honestly. I think I'd rather have Amon-Ra among everyone. So to win the trade, you need the best player. For that reason, I'm going to hold, but I could easily see myself talked into it if my running back room was bad and my receiver room had a lot of depth. But you don't know what to do in redraft. I think I would hold on. I think I would keep Amon-Ra and maybe just offer somebody cheaper. Like if you had Amon-Ra and let's say Nico Collins, offer Nico and Travis Etienne for James Cook and Olave. That I'd be more happy with. But odds are he wants more for James Cook. So I think I would hold. I think I'd want to keep Amon-Ra and just stay put. But especially if it's redraft, you have time in the season to see what's happening. I would hold off. But German Guzman says, Sup Blunt, how many blunts did you smoke tonight? You look faded as fuck. We got in early. We got in early. It's time for bed. I'll say that. Bowers, Kraft, and Loveland, Laporta, McBride, and Fannin. The heavy fade on McBride isn't crazy. Not at all. But thoughts on Colston Loveland and receiver room in Chicago? If they sign Keenan, it's fucked. Loveland is the only one worth it. Loveland is my favorite click among them. But I'd much rather have Rome than Burden. I think Burden's a trap. More likely than not. Should be a 5th rounder, not a 4th. But McBride is 2. LOL. What? People are entitled to their opinions. German, Guzman, Austin doesn't trust McBride. The touchdowns are hard to bet on. I get it, but Kenny Gainwell or Sean Tucker, if Bucky is 100, if his shoulder is banged up, high likelihood it will get messed up again, or he'll be very limited. Well, that's good for me if this is true, because I have bags on bags of Kenny Gainwell and Sean Tucker up and down the board. Kenny Gainwell has been one of my most drafted players of them all. So I hope you're right. I hope you're right, German. But that's going to be it for me. I will say goodnight. I'm not even going to hit the pipe one more time. If anything, I do look faded. It's time to say goodnight. Peace out.